So in life, we have competitions, and we can see competition more clearly in situations like companies. For example, we can see how companies compete with each other to be the best, to stay relevant, and to survive in business basically. And how they do it, this is where innovation comes in handy. So innovation is actually a process of creating something new, something that never seen before product that can make the company survive. So we can also call this as origination. So we can come up with so many original ideas and concepts, but to have something that has a significant value, it needs creativity. And creativity is actually a skill. It is not something that is only available to certain few people. It is something that anyone can learn. So to be creative and innovative, we have to understand the 4 P's, which is possibilities, processes, personal and group creativity, and product. So for the first P is possibility. A situation has to be favorable and possible for a creativity or innovation to happen. The second one is processes. Learning to be creative and innovative takes time and effort. The third one is personal or group creativity. Personal, you have to be out from your comfort zone to raise the level of creativity. And for group, managing a good group dynamic can help you raise your level of creativity. And the final one is product, which is the result from the innovation processes. For this one to be a success, the other 3 P's must be accomplished first. So there are 4 types of innovation, which is product innovation, process innovation, marketing innovation, and management innovation. For product innovation is for new products or services or enhancement from old products. The second one, which is process innovation, which is a result in improved process within the organization, like human resource management. The third one is marketing innovations, like promotions, pricings, or distributions in an organization. The final one, which is the management innovation, is the improvement of the way an organization is managed. So there are 8 basic stages of creative problem solving processes, and the first one is analyzing the environment, which is to be able to recognize a problem as it happens or before it happens, and both is internal and external organizational environment must always be monitored to see signs of problems or opportunities. And then the second one is recognizing a problem. After we analyze the environment successfully, we can recognize the problem, and this takes practice actually, because the more we practice to analyze the environment, the faster we can recognize the problem that may occur. So the third stage is identifying a problem. This stage is to make sure that we find and solve an actual problem rather than merely eliminating a problem's symptom. So the next one is making assumptions. Here we make assumptions of the future if the problem continues, and this will actually help us to solve the problem. But it is important to note that making assumptions can lead to solving the problems entirely, but it can also lead to future problems if we underestimate or overestimate the problem. So after that, we have generating alternatives. So it's basically brainstorming of the ways to solve the problems. And then next, we have choosing alternatives. Among the alternatives that is said during the brainstorming, we can choose which one is more effective to solve the problem. So the more alternatives said, then the greater chance of an effective choice that will be made. So next we have implementation, which is to take action from our alternatives. And then the last one, we have control, which is to evaluate whether our alternatives actually solve the problems or not. So now we're gonna share about the creative technique for all the 8 basic stages of creative problem solving processes. And the first one is analyzing the environment. So we can compare against others, meaning we can, for example, do benchmarking, meaning we can go to a company that we see the best in the business that we do, and see what their strengths are, and we can take that and implement to our company. And then the next one, we can hire futurists and other consultants, meaning to have someone that is trained for that skill, and we can learn from them and maybe use them to make profit for our company. And then to monitor weak signals, we have to pay careful attention to weak signals in the market. By going to seminars can help us with that. And then opportunity searches, we have to always search for an opportunity and gaining new knowledges in the business so that we are always up to date. So for the next creative problem solving process is recognizing the problems, and the creative techniques are, the first one is making a checklist, which is to improve the situation analysis as we can see it clearly, and then to provide guidance in finding opportunities and having more better solutions. And then listing complaints and responding to someone else, which is we can listen to what people think and maybe find more actual problems from it. Next, we have the fishbone diagram, which is a great technique to identify a problem because it actually lists all the possible causes of the problem. And usually this technique takes about 2 or more sessions of brainstorming because we really want to be immersed in the problem and work on the problem subconsciously. And then this fishbone diagram is a great technique to be used because it can actually encourage problem solvers to study all parts of the problem as we listed before making a decision, and then it helps to show relationship between the causes and the problem. And next we have the YY diagram, which is a traditional way of fishbone diagram. By fishbone diagram, we actually draw it looking like a fishbone diagram, but for the YY diagram, we approach by using a traditional tree diagram. The next stage is making assumption, and the creative technique is actually making an assumption reversal, meaning we list all the possible assumptions that we have about the problem and we reverse it and try to solve the problems. This technique actually helps us to get new ideas to solve the original problems, and actually also helps us to create new fresh ideas.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Noorshazlin Bt Ismail, and I will present an individual technique for generating alternative. There are 4 techniques that I would like to present, which is the first one is association, the second one is mind mapping, the third one is reversal, the third one the Napoleon technique. Association involves making a mental connection between 2 objects or ideas. It works through 3 primary laws, originally laid down by ancient Greeks. The first one is contiguity, which means nearness. For example, when you see a chalkboard, it will remind you of school. The second one is similarity, which means one object or thought will remind you of similar object or thought. For example, when you see a pen, it will remind you of pencil. And the third one is contrast, which means dissimilarity that are nearly opposite. For example, when you go somewhere and you meet European people, which is white people, and it will remind you of African people, which is black people. And then move to free association. Free association that you will say whatever comes into your mind relative to a word you just wrote, or relative to a 1 or 2 words definition of a problem. It's simply to get thought onto a whiteboard or sheet of paper that will trigger new thought about the problem. This is the way to try free associating. The first one is starting with 1 word summary of your problem in line 1. On line 2, write down the first word that's come to mind after looking at line 1. On line 3, write down the first word that come to mind after looking at line 2. Continue until you have 10 words, and then take the words that grab you and use them to brainstorm solutions, or use them for a new association that can then be used to brainstorm solutions. And then write your ideas on line 1A through 10A. For example, I have problem to draw something and I don't know what kind of thing that I want to draw. So I put first thing that come across my mind is tree, and then after I put tree, I put bird because when I wrote tree, it remind me of birds. And then after bird, I put blue because I think the bird will be blue. And then what come to my mind after I wrote blue is be sea because sea is blue, and then water, and then so on. And then after I finish 10 words, I will continue to write at 1A until 10A, and so on. And I will grab some of these words to solve my problem using this word. And then the second technique is mind mapping. Write the name or description. Write the name or descriptions of the object or problem in the center of piece of paper and draw a circle around it. Brainstorming each major facet of that object or problem, drawing line outwards from the circle like roads leaving a city. You can draw branches from those roads as you brainstorm them in detail. You can brainstorm all the main line at once and then the branches for each, or brainstorm a line and its branches. As the branches out, you may notice related topic appearing on the branches. This relationship can be emphasized by circling the item in question or drawing line under or between them. And then study your mind map and look for interrelationship and term appearing more than once. This is the example of the mind map that we can use, which is time management. We can use a lot of color to make it more interesting and make it easier to remember all the notes that we wrote in the mind map. And then the third technique is reversal reversal. State the problem using an action verb, then take the antonym of that verb and solve the new problem created in this way. The solution to that problem may give you idea about solving the original problem. For example, to improve the product with reversal reversal as to worsen the product. If the product was a stereo, you could cut out the sound, make the speaker smaller, make it have one medium only. The opposite of this would normally help solve the original problem, but also making the speaker smaller could actually lead to a better product if the sound quality could be maintained, and maybe a new speaker needed. And then the fourth technique is the Napoleon technique. Pretend that you are someone famous and try to solve the problem from that person's perspective on a problem. For example, what would Isaac Newton do if he confronted by your problem? And then you can use Napoleon or our Prophet Muhammad SAW. For example, if you have a problem and think what Prophet Muhammad SAW would do if he faced the same problem like you. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Nabilla Huda binti Jasmani. I will continue with the next part of the presentation. Okay, so in this book, the authors have listed out lots of group techniques that we can use to generate ideas, but particularly for this presentation, we are going to highlight the 4 techniques that we think are interesting. The 4 techniques that we're going to explain is, first of all, the brainstorming techniques. Second one is the brainwriting pool, and the third is excursion technique, and the fourth is the lotus blossom technique. First of all, brainstorming technique. I believe that we are all familiar with this technique, but do we actually know how to conduct an effective brainstorming session? I don't think so. So, according to the authors of this book, an ideal brainstorming session should consist of 6 to 13 members, and it needs to have a leader to facilitate the session and a recorder or secretary to record all the things that happen during the brainstorming session, especially the outcomes and the ideas that we've got. And there are also few rules that we need to observe. Like, for example, we must not pass any judgment, but instead welcome all ideas regardless if the idea seems unrealistic or absurd, because our main objective is to produce as many ideas that we can. And during the session, we can combine ideas or refine ideas, or we can also piggyback ideas, meaning that in case we don't have any original idea, we can take any ideas of our members and improve it. And that's it for brainstorming. The second technique is brainwriting pool. So if in brainstorming, we need to have everyone to talk, this technique on the other hand requires us to write. But most important thing is we have to at least 6 to 8 members to sit together around the table, and the session will only begin when everyone writes their ideas on a piece of paper, and we have to make sure that everyone write at least 4 ideas or solutions on the issues. And the second step is to place the papers at the center of the table, because we are trying to collect everyone's ideas and to make sure that everyone's participate. And as in brainstorming, we can also piggyback each other's ideas to create new ideas. And the last step in this technique is everyone have to exchange the papers. This technique, we can repeat this session for as many times as we want until we are actually satisfied with the outcomes. Third technique that we want to highlight is the excursion technique. According to the author of this book, the excursion technique is very useful if we can't get any solutions or ideas, even after using creative tools such as brainstorming or brainwriting pool. And there are 4 major steps. The first one is the excursion itself. So for the first step, the leader will have to instruct each member to take an imagined excursion into or during some physical locations such as museum, jungle, or city for like 5 to 10 minutes. So basically, we are imagining as if we are going into some sort of adventure. The second step is to draw analogies. We will have to draw analogies or relationship between what we saw during excursion and the problem. We will have to spend for about 10 to 15 minutes for this particular step. And the third step is to evaluate and understand. So we have determined the relationship in the second step. Now we have to define the relationship and analyze how the relationship can be used to solve our problem. And the last step in excursion technique is to share experiences. All of the members have to share their excursions, their analogies, understandings, and solutions that they have got during the process. The fourth technique that we want to highlight in this presentation is the lotus blossom technique. So as we have provided on the screen, this is the representation of the lotus blossom that should be our base. And as you can see, the center or the pistil of the flower will be filled with the issue or the main ideas or the main problems. And we will have like few petals around it, and this petal will also have to be filled with related ideas. So basically the center will be the main ideas, whereas the petals are the sub ideas. And each petal will then become the new center in the next lotus blossom. This is the example of how to use the lotus blossom technique. As on the screen, now we have the problem of how to make a great place piece. But to make a great place piece, first of all, we need to think about the playground equipment. So on the first lotus blossom, we have playground equipment as the main ideas, and it is surrounded with 8 sub-ideas or petals. And amongst it is parents. And on the second lotus blossom, the main idea is now parents, because as we recalled, each petal should be the new center. So if in the first lotus blossom, parents is only the sub-idea, In the second lotus blossom, it is now a main idea. And this process is also to be repeated for each sub-ideas until we actually solve the problem. And that is all. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Afrina Sofia Nabilla binti Rosman Hadi, and I will continue the presentation. So my topic is creative techniques for choosing among the alternatives, implementation, control, and using the techniques. There are 4 subtopics that I will touch on. The first one is dot voting. The second one is how diagram. The third one is be a warrior when selling your ideas. And the fourth one is using your intuition. Dot voting. So dot voting, it is a simple tool used to make decisions in a group setting. It is an easy, straightforward way to narrow down alternatives and converge to a set of concepts or ideas. So there are 5 steps on how we conduct this dot voting. The first one is to gather materials. So the materials used will depend on what is voted on and what you use to vote. Most commonly, dot voting is used to vote on options represented on sticky notes. That is usually hung on a wall, or also can be presented in written lists on a large surface such as a poster board, a flip chart, or a whiteboard, or also can be written on a piece of paper. So for this voting, participants may indicate their choices with stick-on dots, or can also be made by simply doing a mark with a pen or a marker. So the second step is specify voting constraints. So before the vote, remind the participants the purpose and value of the voting exercise. Why are they voting and how will the outcome be used? So you tell the participants how many votes they will have. And you can give each participant roughly a number of votes, such as participants may have only 1 vote or more than 1. Then the third step is vote. This is where the participants should place their votes quietly. It is best for conversation should not resume until all participants have placed their dot or mark. The fourth one is the calculate outcome. When all the participants have made their vote, participants can converge and discuss the outcome based on the objective of the dot voting. Participants can discuss why they have voted for particular options, or you may assess next steps now that a collective ranking has been achieved. And the last step is potentially narrow and revote. This is where the choices have been narrowed down. If you have a tie among top options or you have prioritization needed, the group can do the vote again to form a clear winner. So then you may reissue the same number of votes to each participant, but only allow votes on the top options which emerged from the previous vote. The next technique is how diagram. So how diagram, it is a technique that helps you to detail a solution. This how diagram is actually similar to the YYY diagram that has been described in the earlier slide. This how diagram, it seeks to identify the steps necessary to implement a solution. Instead of asking why, the problem solver asks how. So this will break down the solution into more and more explicit elements. There are 3 steps in conducting this technique. The first step is state the problem. You need to state your problem clearly and write it on one card. Make sure that the problem written is a need, so that the how question will work. The second step is ask how the solution can be done. So asking this question should result in several possible solutions, which you can write on the cards and stick up to the right of the problem card. The third step is repeat and conclude. Each time a solution is listed, the question how is asked. Problem solvers answer with a more detailed action plan. Then you repeat the process and conclude. It will look like you're building up a hierarchy as shown here. So this is the example of how diagram. The problem here is improve product design. how to improve the product design, it comes up with the three solutions. Main solutions, which is to improve quality, to make it more trendy, and the next one is to improve sleekness. So in improving quality, how do we need to improve quality? So there are three solutions given here, which are the first one is to use cross-functional work teams for design. And the second solution is to use quality circles in management. The third solution is to use TQM in manufacturing. We go back to the second main solution, which is make it more trendy. How do we do it? So here, the solution given is to use focus groups to help to determine the style. And the next one is to compare against similar trendy products in other product markets. And the last one is to improve sleekness. So the solution on how we improving the sleekness is by hiring an Italian designer. And the next one is to computer-assisted design features to smooth out the design. Moving on to the third technique, which is be a warrior when selling your ideas. This technique is taken from Roger von Eyck, a noted creativity consultant and author. Suggests that there are 4 distinct roles that must be filled during the creativity and or innovation process. So the roles are explorer, artist, judge, and also a warrior. So what does an explorer do? In order to build an idea, you need to gather the raw materials such as facts, concepts, experiences, knowledge, and feeling. That's where ideas are made of. When you're searching for new information, you need an attitude of ongoing curiosity and be like an explorer. The second role is artist. So this is when you apply your imagination by rearranging or turning things upside down, stirring things up, or use different approach and finds unexpected connections. That's when you're turning your resources into ideas. You be an artist. The third one is judge. When you're evaluating the merits of an idea, you check how feasible the ideas are, analyzing and making comparison, and also assess if the ideas are practical to be used. This is the moment where you become a judge. And last but not least, a warrior. This is where you need to develop the resilience and courage to overcome obstacles when you're carrying your idea into action. Hence, you be a warrior. Last but not least is using the techniques by using your intuition. So this book closes with 2 brief discussions, one on the using of intuition, and the other one is on using the techniques that has been described in this book. But here I will be sharing with you about intuition since the techniques have been discussed in the previous slides. So what is intuition? Intuition is the ability to understand something instinctively without the need for conscious reasoning. According to the author, intuition can and should be used in all stages of creative problem solving. He also said that rationality is a major contributor to the problem solving process, but rationality alone does not result in the best solutions to many problems, especially complex problems. This intuition is like instinct, where our innate inclination toward a particular behavior. We have that gut feeling, which is a sensation that appears quickly, consciousness without us being fully aware of the underlying reasons for its occurrence. Hence, this can be described as a process that gives us the ability to know something directly without analytic reasoning. For example, first impression. When you first meet someone, you can sense if a stranger is a cheerful person or a wounded spirit, or an angry person, or a hopeful heart. In turn, the other person gets a reading of you too. This speaks to that gut feeling that you sometimes get about strangers. Your intuition is always working for you. That is all from me. Thank you.